Hey guys, sort of an awkward spot on Moto right now where there isn't a lot of relevant stuff to be playing. I played a modern daily earlier today, and I thought I'd try something a little different. Rather than live recording, I'm just gonna be playing back the daily and just talking about interesting decisions as they come up. Hopefully the lag won't be too bad. So I'm playing Zeus, splashing black, except I haven't fixed the mana base yet. I did after I entered this tournament. I realized the mana was still wrong. Misty Rainforest should be Verdant Catacombs, because I don't have any blue in the deck. Sorry, I'll wait, show you the deck this time. Yeah, you can see no blue spells, but lots of Misty Rainforests. I'm playing 3 Inquisition of Kozilek main. Those basically took the place of the Vamp Charms in the regular counter cat list. And other than that, the main deck's basically identical. And then post-board, I just bring in Soleil. I've recorded a daily event with this deck before, so it shouldn't be anything new. I shouldn't have gone through there. God, this is going to be really difficult because I can't go backwards. And I'm just like instinctively going forward. So anyway, his hand, I decided to Inquisition over Green Sun Zenith for his second Knight of the Reliquary. Green Sun Zenith for his second Knight of the Reliquary is better against Twin, but it's not as good against Storm, like Pyromancer Ascension, or the just full-on Empty the Warren sort of Storm decks. And so I decided to go for Inquisition, see where I stood. I should be in really great shape against Twin either way, and if I'm against one of the Storm decks, then I'd rather play Inquisition now anyway. And I end up seeing his hand, which contained Seething Song, Rite of Flame, Desperate Ritual, Paretic Ritual, Rite of Flame number 2, and Goblin Bushwhacker. So, and he had Ponder. So clearly he's got all the Storm he could ever need, and there's no way I'm stopping him from having that. But he doesn't have Empty the Warrens. So the obvious play to me seemed to be to make him discard Ponder and just hope to kill him before he got to Empty the Warrens. Oh, right, and also Gadok Teague, it turns out, is in my deck. So yeah, he has to get to Empty the Warrens and a way to deal with Gadok now. This is why Green Sun Zenith is an absurd card, by the way, because it just like blanks his deck. He's forced to go off turn 2, almost. I have to go all the way back to find it again. Post-board, very little changes for me in this matchup. Oh, I guess I get Aethersworn Canonist, but other than that, pretty much everything stays the same. I board out like Path to Exile. I brought in my extra Kasali Pride Mages, even though they're not super exciting against his deck. I don't think he's playing Pyromancer's Swath. So I open with Hierarch instead of going for turn 1 Inquisition. I think if he can kill me turn 2, I just have to lose. And since next turn I'm Green Sun Zenithing for Gadok, that may have actually been the play turn 2. I'm not sure why I'm just Green Sun Zenith for Gadok. I guess I figured he probably doesn't kill me here, and I want to make sure that he isn't playing something like Flame Spout, Fire Spout, some mass creature removal, because if I do go for Green Sun Zenith for Gadok and he has that mass creature removal, I'm in really bad shape. Whereas if I Inquisition now, I can probably slow him down a turn. Probably a decent chance I do that. And if he does have the Fire Spout or something, then I have a safe Gadok next turn. And I can still play Tarmogoyf, so I'm still putting him on a decent clock. I see this hand. I think the clear choice here is Metamorphose. It doesn't just add 1 to his Storm count. In a hand with Seething Song and no other rituals, it's much better than that, because he's going to have to tap 3 mana for Seething Song as it is. So like if he draws another land, or maybe draws a Desperate Ritual or a Rite of Flame, all of that's going into making Seething Song, and then he needs to cast these Preordains as well, and Metamorphose lets him do that. So Metamorphose is actually worth like 3+ Storm in this hand. And while he can just cast the Preordains next turn and set up for the turn after going off, if I take his Metamorphose, I pretty much prevent him from comboing next turn, and then Gadok will be down. So he draws a land, plays the Preordains, and I just attack and grab Gadok. And it's pretty much game over at this point. He just doesn't draw anything to deal with that. This isn't super relevant, but I decided to go for Qasali Pridemage here. I want to have 7 power on the board, of course. Well, that's not even clear. I could just bolt him. Maybe he like Ramon's Bolt or something, I don't know. Anyway, I figured if he has a Fire Spout, this way I have 2 Wild Nacatl in hand. They're both going to be 2/2s once they're in play. Then I have Bolt as well to deal him 7. Maybe not even playing the Pridemage was a bit better. No, I like it, because if he bounces Gadok on my next attack, I have 5+3 from the Bolt for lethal. So that was a pretty quick and easy round 1. Moving on to round 2, playing against M4P4, and this was a Zoo Mirror, and I think my deck is very heavily favored in the Mirror. I decided to keep this hand with double Inquisition and just open on Inquisition. Sorry, got a little click happy there. Anyway, you'll see his hand very soon, because I'm going to Inquisition again next turn. No, I'm not. Okay. I guess I'd better go back to what his hand was. So I saw Neither Reliquary ×2, Arid Mesa, Bant Charm ×2, Stomping Ground, and Lightning Bolt. So he has a lot of high-end, powerful cards for this matchup. Bant Charm is going to remove all of my creatures, and Neither Reliquary is a must-answer threat. And I decided to take Neither Reliquary. I'd rather answer his creatures first and worry about his Bant Charms later. Anyway, he drew Wild Nacatl, and then next he drew a Lightning Bolt for my Nacatl and got him for 3. He also had another Bant Charm, so his hand now, after I take his second Neither Reliquary with Inquisition, is 3 times Bant Charm. And so I let him draw for the turn. He doesn't have blue mana, so I'm not worried about mana leak or anything weird like that. And then I path to exile Wild Nacatl, because I'm never going to be able to deal with that with a creature. Like, it's going to take a very long time for me to do that. Anyway, he draws another Wild Nacatl, and I draw Helix for that one. And he passes the turn one time. Not sure what he drew there. I guess maybe a land that he's holding. Anyway, next turn he draws Green Sun Zenith for Tarmogoyf, which forces my last path to exile pretty quickly. Oh yeah, he drew a Lightning Helix. Cast my 3rd Inquisition, grab Bant Charm, but this matchup is so much about trading 1-for-1 that I'm just way too far behind at this point. Due to the extra lands that I've drawn, his hand is just full of cards that can trade for 1-for-1, and all of his threats trade 1-for-1 too. So he draws Elspeth on turn 8. At that point, the game's already over, though. It does really force it to be over. And I just conceded. Moving on to Game 2. Game 2, the matchup improves dramatically for me, because I board in 4 copies of Slay. And Slay is just brutal for him. I decided to keep this hand. Why did I keep this hand? The reason I kept this hand, I guess, is that it's really good if I draw 1 land. And even if I don't draw a land, it's not an awful hand. I mean, eventually I will have to draw land, but Green Sun Zenith gets me 1 land. And I have Nacatl, Path, and Tarmogoyf, who will eventually get bigger than 0/1. Plus, Horizon Canopy is valuable late game, so I decided to Green Sun Zenith for Dryad Arbor to start out. That seemed better than playing a 1/1 Nikatl, I guess. I don't know. Probably playing Nikatl there and then Green Sun Zenithing for Noble Hierarch on the next turn was a bit better. So I curve out with 1/1 and 0/1 creatures, get hit in the face by his Noble Hierarch, and then I draw my first Slay. Still can't cast it. And so I play another 0/1. And he plays Elspeth, and he makes a pretty big mistake here. If he just makes a 1/1 soldier token, I think I'd just lose this game. I can path his Pride Mage, then I can swing for... I mean, as it stands, I couldn't actually kill his Elspeth on the next attack. But he tries to go for the +3/+3 and flying route, which I just think is... it doesn't make sense. I'm obviously extremely bogged down here. He has an Elspeth on the board and can cast all his spells. He has the ability to just take a massive lead by making soldier tokens here. And just attacking on the ground with that Pride Mage, it was already a 4/4 with the two Exalted triggers. Or he'll just leave it back to block, I don't know. But he felt like he had to go for it, I guess. And now he just loses his Elspeth. Most likely. I mean, I only have 4 power on the board still, but I decided to sacrifice the Horizon Canopy to get the Tarmogoyfs up to 2/3s. Deal him 1 point of damage since I'm not going to be chump blocking next turn. And at that point he untapped and cast Knight of the Reliquary, killing my Dryad Arbor, swinging for 1. But unfortunately for him, I finally draw black mana. So at this point I have Green Sun Zenith for Noble Hierarch, which puts me on 3 mana. And I also just have an overwhelming board, sort of. His Knight of the Reliquary is very slow to get bigger than my Goyfs. So I could swing with both Goyf here. However, I don't think I quite have enough to just out-tempo him right now. He still has 2 cards in hand. If either of them is like a path or anything, it seems pretty bad to be trying to just swing a bunch when I have 2 Slay in hand, so I'm winning the long game anyway. So I decided to leave a Goyf back for defense, perhaps. He plays another Knight of the Reliquary and Goyf on his turn, which is pretty solid, but he's just dead to Slays at this point, unfortunately. Get in for 1, and... well, he blocks with Dryad Arbor, which is fine, I suppose. I don't know. It's a cute play. It's probably the right play, but it's nothing special. I decided just to put Wild Nikatl in front of the Goyf. The Nikatl's not really going to be doing much at the end of all this, most likely. And going to 6 against him, there's a decent chance he still has Lightning Bolt and Lightning Helix in the deck, and he certainly has Elspeth in the deck, which can at any point make one of these guys deal me 9 with flying if I'm tapped out. Anyway, at this point I actually had a pretty solid timing read on him that he didn't have Bant Charm. However, all the same, I decided to... okay. After he tapped the Knight, I actually decided to go for Slay right now, since he could have Sajuri Step in his deck. Almost certainly he doesn't, but he could. If he had him, I was planning on doing it during his upkeep so that he had to tap the lands for Bant Charm after they untapped rather than before they untapped. Just a slightly better way to kill his creature. I throw in a Cuddle in front of a massive Goyf again, and then I just have the game won. I finish off his final big threat, get an LOL for the 3 of and 18 cards. It's pretty awesome. Send him my team, bolt that, yeah, just get the scoop. So the Zoo Mirrors are actually often quite lengthy games, and what that means is that sideboard cards matter more. You see more cards, and so those Slays, even though there are only 4 of in a 60 card deck, you're often going to be seeing them, and they really make a big difference. He leads with Hierarch. I think it's clearly better to bolt his Hierarch than go for my own. And that slows him down enough that he has no turn 2 play. He bolts my Hierarch though. Then he has no turn 3 play. He tanked for a while before this keep, by the way. I think I made a pretty big mistake there playing Neither Reliquary as a 3-3. And then he made a mistake back, I don't know if you caught it, but he tapped Breeding Pool for blue before Lightning Helixing my Knight, which basically just flat out tells me that he has Bant Charm in hand and assumed that he needed it to kill the Nether Reliquary. Anyway, I go ahead and draw Ranger of Eos, which I don't think Countercat stock lists play, but it just, like, if you cast it in the Zoo Mirror, it's a one-off for me. And if you cast it, you sort of win. There's just too much card advantage for them to handle. He did have the Bat Charm, of course, but doesn't do much versus Ranger. And I don't have 2 green here, so I can't actually play a Tarmogoyf and a Nacatl in one turn. So I went for Elspeth, just to get soldier tokens going as soon as possible. He Elspeth back, so I only get 1, but I draw another green source, so I get to put some power on the board now. I ended up deciding to go for another Nacatl instead of Goyf. The reason is just to leave Arena up in case he plays Noble Hierarch or something, I don't know. Oh. But then I didn't anyway. Then I took him off double white, which I think is good. Stops another Elspeth or a Gideon from going down, although Gideon's not too scary. Yeah, I should have played the Goyf then. I remember actually thinking that I didn't have enough mana to go Goyf and activate Tectonic Edge because one of my lands was down here. We are apparently just... okay. Can we go back to... yes, we can. I don't know why that was lagging. So we get in there. He has Lightning Helix to slow me down, but I just have an edge, and all of his cards trade 1 for 1 with mine. Whereas I have Arena here to kill his Hierarch, for example, and I have I've gotten ahead with Ranger of Eos, and I have Slays to draw as well. When I activated Arena here, I chose the Soldier. Just a small thing. It's probably obvious if you're playing a deck in the moment, but sort of easy to have a shortcut of choosing your biggest creature. However, if he's holding Bant Charm, he has 1 card in hand. If he's holding Bant Charm or Path to Exile, I don't want to let him Bant Charm my Tarmogoyf in response and then not lose his Hierarch. Because the Tarmogoyf doesn't deal any damage if it's dead or gone. So he does Bant Charm my Goyf, but like I said, I chose the Soldier. So I take out his Hierarch. He plays an Elspeth. I have a sort of interesting decision here. I can try to just kill him. However, he's on 8 still. He's only taking 3 this turn. I thought that... I guess he's taking 4 this turn. Basically, if I try to kill him and he draws, say, Lightning Helix from my Nacatl, he's actually in a spot where suddenly he's winning. Elspeth is just so powerful that the soldiers he's creating are going to pretty much require me to draw something off the top to respond to it all. So I decided to wipe out his Elspeth. I could just attack with Nacatl and have an untapped soldier, which seems strictly better, but I decided to attack with both, I guess. yeah, I untapped and saw what my draw was before I cast Path on the Cattle. I think that's probably good. If I draw a Slay, then it seems a lot better to draw the Slay, to play the Slay. Finished off Elspeth and played Knight of the Reliquary, and at this point, yeah, he's just, I mean, totally dead, right? Nothing left. So that was round 2. It's going to end up being sort of a long video. I didn't realize... Well, I guess that was a zoom error. These ones will probably be a lot quicker, because I play Affinity here, and he mauls to 6 and then leads Glimmer Void, Volt Scourge, and I Lightning Bolted and he scoops. So that was a very quick game 1. Not a whole lot of decisions or anything. Game 2, he did get me back once though. And in an odd way. So this is certainly a keepable hand. It's not the quickest hand or anything. There's a decent chance I lose to a cool cranial plating draw or something, but I don't think it's quite bad enough to mulligan. If I can get to 5 Gideon, it's pretty cool. Anyway, I never got a chance to fetch a basic, and never did. I'm not sure that I would have if I had gotten the chance, to be honest, because Blood Moon I don't think is any good against my deck, so I generally don't play around it. But in this case, he does super own me with it, and then we have one of the oddest games of Affinity versus Zoo that I've ever seen. Because he plays no creatures until, let's find out. Blast my Goyf. Oh, there we go. Turn 9, he plays a Vault Scourge. And yeah, eventually he does beat me. I have 1 out to a forest, at which point I can actually just start casting everything. But I don't hit it. I do hit the plains, but it doesn't actually get me anywhere. I can cast Path if I draw it again, but... Oh, I did draw 1. Look at that. Basically, though, I just die slowly. Obviously, post-board, well, not obviously, maybe, but post-board I actually have 3 Pride Mage. I realized after playing Affinity twice in this tournament that that's dumb. I should have 2 Kataki on the board over 2 Pride Mage, almost for sure. There aren't many relevant enchantments in Modern right now. But yeah, I did have lots of Pride Mages, so had I gotten off to a better start, I would have been able to deal with the Blood Moon pretty easily. This game I do get to fetch both my basics and I get an early Knight. Although he gets blasted, I still have... I'm playing against a very slow draw from him, basically, and I have quite a lot of card advantage in Ranger of Eos. And I guess sort of virtual card advantage, because I get to Green Sun Zenith for Casali Pride Mage and kill his Cranial Plating. And at that point, his Ornithopter is essentially a dead card. And he's playing Dispatch, meanwhile, which is not going to do a whole lot for him. He claimed that he had 1 Blood Moon in hand. I asked him if he had 3. Yeah, but there's an example of why I wouldn't be playing Blood Moon against Zoo as Affinity. And then round 4, I got paired against another Affinity deck, piloted by Little Darwin. I thought this was a totally fine keep versus Affinity. I went for the basic forest just because it saves me a little bit of life and I'm not land short at all. Plus they don't play Path to Exile, so you can fetch your basics a little earlier. Yeah, this game was just going fine. He's got 2 platings and a Nexus, which is potentially scary, but I have Path to Exile in hand. I played this Godless Shrine untapped, and then Green Sun Zenith for a night. Like, I don't know how he can not expect me to have Path to Exile, but maybe he just doesn't have a better play than going for it here. Anyway, I do have Path to Exile, so he, yeah, loses. That was game 1, and then game 2 and 3 didn't go quite as well. This is why I sort of wish I had Kitaki, because Kitaki just seems like against affinity decks which play Ornithopter, Kitaki seems pretty solid. So he got off to a decent start, turn 1 Frogmite, turn 2 Plating. I'm repping Path here, but don't have it. Do have a Lightning Helix for later. I also left an Inquisition of Kozilek, which is probably not good. I fetch a Pride Mage to take care of the plating, but he gets an Edge Champion in play, and at this point, I can leave Helix up, or I can, after I cycle Horizon Canopy, play Knight of the Reliquary. And I decided to play Knight of the Reliquary. Here's the deal. He has Cranial Plating. If he draws Cranial Plating, I'm pretty much dead. I don't think I'm beating that with all these Ornithopters. I mean, I could draw Pride Mage or Green Sun Zenith, but it's a 6-outer. So there's not a whole lot of value to trying to beat him here if he has Cranial Plating in hand. The other card I'm worried about is Galvanic Blast with Edge Champion and Nexus. If I don't cast Lightning Helix, I lose to Galvanic Blast, but he has to draw a red source, and doesn't have a huge number of red sources. Decent number, but not a huge number. So I decided to go for the Reliquary, and he did have Galvanic Blast and drew a red source. Or maybe it was the other way around. Maybe he had the red source and drew Galvanic Blast, I don't know. If it was the other way around, it's much better play by him, because a lot of people would have played that Mox Opal a lot earlier. Well, no, he must have had the Blast and then played the Mox, because he hit with Plating once. Anyway, it would be sexy to hold your red mana forever until you draw the bolt that makes it relevant. Or blast that makes it relevant. It's a lightning bolt, let's be serious. So, I had a unkeepable 7 and mulled into this 6, which is definitely not great, but I don't know, what am I going to do? I decided just to Helix the Scourge straight away. The reason is that I'm hoping not to have mana open for a little while. Like, ideally, I want to get Knight of the Reliquary, and I want to get Arena going. Maybe that's optimistic, and when he untaps and plays Cranial Plating the next turn, it makes me look like sort of an idiot. But anyway, I maybe should've... well, no, Galvanic Blast deals 4. I don't know. I don't think I can try to slow play until that knight has 5 toughness. He has a very slow start, but eventually he gets double Thoughtcast off, and I just have a whole lot of lands and no answer to Plating plus Champion. Even if I get an answer to Plating, I still have no answer for Champion. So yeah, I just scooped it up here. Like 7 lands and 3 spells or something. He has Galvanic Blast and a Signal Pest in hand. Had I had Kitaki, I could definitely keep playing here. If Kitaki were in the deck, because that's somewhat of an out against his board. It at least trims him down a lot. Okay, so yeah. That was right on half an hour, which is awesome. Let me know how you liked this presentation style over the in-game live stuff. It's a lot quicker to do, definitely, but I don't know if it's more or less